I never know what to say. Well, I guess this is the lead-in. Here we are. I never know what to say when these videos start, so it's always like, here we go. All right. So I try to have on guests that the community should know, but just in case you don't, this is my man, Bfine, hitting you from the internets, Sanctuary PDH. He's been to Riches to Rags or Rags to Riches or whatever it is today. Doing the league stuff, doing the RIW stuff, all of that. Circling back to the league. That's the main reason why we're talking to you today, because in a previous episode, I talked to Dallas Walker about their experience putting on a tournament, all of that. At the Dot Guide venture is hella concerned with the experience that players they're having. So that's why we do the data stuff. That's why we try to communicate, all the play options, yada, yada, yada. So this is no different. My man Bobby here is become like the maestro when it comes to leagues and online tournaments and all of that stuff. So today it's all about leagues. So I wrote in some notes. We got a little notes thing. I wrote in some notes for myself. Basically the first couple of points are like, what is a league? Because I do recognize that, and I know that sounds stupid to more enfranchised players, but we do have, and we talked about this a lot recently, we, the community, about more casual players coming over to the dark side, as it were. So maybe they don't know what a league is. So kind of like starting it out at this base level, like, what is a league? How does it compare to F&M? What is it? How is it different than tournament? Like, it sounds structured. Is it a tournament? Like a long game? What is this thing? What are do? Bobby, please let us know.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me.
Anytime.
It's, awesome seeing the guide grow and, being involved in that in any way over time. I know we've talked about it plenty. So, yeah. So leagues, they're kind of the gap between just like open play, like fun games or, test games or whatever, and then tournaments. So like a middle ground where, like you said, there's that structure. There's, trying to simulate tournament conditions to an extent. You're playing for something at the end of the day. But it's kind of a step below where it's a little more relaxed. It's not, all happening in one day like a tournament would. The stakes are like, for example, the league I'm doing right now is free. So like, there's low cost to enter. But yeah, it's kind of like helping bridge the gap between kind of open play, just games here and there, and tournament with a mind towards, eventually getting people to play in tournaments.
So that's a great point, because big talk in the last few months has been surrounding the concept of the influence of time. So in this, it sounds like, this, it's not mock, it's not training, it's leagues are real games. But it's like under the auspices of kind of simulating what it's going to be like when you actually sign up for a tournament. And time is one of those factors, because let's face it, you got to be able to win in time. Now, you're pretty much one of the guys setting the standard for time. Let's touch on this briefly. What is the time range? Can we talk about that briefly? Because I know that's kind of been a topic of discussion as well.
Yeah, so I've seen it varied a few places. So for full transparency, I borrowed a lot from Eminence Games and their Eminence Events and their Mox Masters series, which is an online cEDH tournament series. So I talked with some of their team and used it to figure out what to do for the Sanctuary tournament and leagues and all that stuff. So the first tournament I did 95-minute rounds because I wasn't sure how, when to start, because there's, just the logistics of getting into the room, getting everyone's spell table set up, moving people around. You and I went to RIW, and it was 80-minute. They aired 80-minute rounds, which felt like, they're over in a second. I think Dallas had 90-minute rounds at the first Rags to Riches event. So I moved to 90-minute rounds just for consistency's sake. 95 is a weird number. 80 felt like a weird number. It's all arbitrary at the end of the day, but 90 is like a good sweet spot where I don't feel like there's that many draws that will happen unless people are, either playing slow or, they're grindy decks, but yeah, the 90-minute rounds is kind of where I've settled on for what I think it works. And, if that ever changes from a community perspective, open to change as well. So,
okay. So we covered the time aspect of it. I presume, and because I know this, but I presume that most leagues now granted, you're the only game in town at the moment. But that's fine. That's fine. We're very small format, and really having someone to get in and flesh all of that stuff out is actually necessary. Other people have tried in the past, and logistically it's a challenge. So anyway, people sign up. People now, how does that work with deck registration? Are there any restrictions on what they can play? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So this is the first one, just so it's a learning process. I
get
guess.
It perfect right out the gate.
Yeah. But so I've seen leagues handled a few different ways. And so there's going to be some experimentation to figure out what works best for the biggest number of people. And maybe it involves a rotating structure to how we do leagues. I don't know. But there's the kind of lengthened tournament approach, which is where, you just pair people based on, how they perform over time. And then you take the top people and they play for the prizes. Or there's kind of the open ranked, the open ladder approach where everyone just plays games and then you get points for winning, or you're judged based on winning percentage. And that is good for people who can play more.
Yep.
It kind of can benefit them. There's pros and cons to each structure. So at the end of the day, can't make everyone happy, can't get all the pros of one and none of the cons of the other, any of that. But I talked with you, I've talked with Jonathan, who you guys were working on the previous Common Connoisseurs League. We'll probably touch on some. Talked with Timmy T1000 over the Budget Brew server, who ran a whole host of those all over the place, to get just feedback on what works best for people. So but right now, so in terms of the current thing we're trying, so we're doing the kind of spread out tournament approach where every Saturday we're doing a 3-week league for the first one, just to keep it kind of short, because it's a big time commitment. 2 games every Saturday, so for a total of 4 rounds in the tournament. So a 3-ish hour commitment every Saturday for a few weeks. And then the third Saturday will be the top 4, just based on attendance. It'll be a top 4 table basically playing for how they get to pick the prizes and split them up. So it gets everyone, so everyone can be there at the same time, same place. You can live stream it. It's way easier to manage round times when everyone's using the same clock. And if there's an issue with rules or whatever, everyone's there and can kind of coordinate, as opposed to, if it's sort of time when not very many people are on, but those 4 people could get a game in. Resolving a judge or rules related question could be kind of a hassle. So
it is under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
So, but those things get ironed out pretty quickly, I think. I don't think we've seen an issue in the past 2 years where something is made or broken, a pod or a rank, so knock on some wood. Right on. Okay, so what is a league? How does it differ from F&M tournament play? Caught that. What the league environment looks like. So kind of pivoting into how do leagues support tournament play? And I guess that lends itself really why leagues are important. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so you and I have talked a lot about tournaments as of late. Tournaments are a new phenomenon, but they're kind of a newer concept in the PDH community. I'd say Dallas was kind of the pioneer of sorts with the Rags to Riches. And then, there's that CBB budget one. There was the RIW. There's the first Sanctuary one, and we have one coming up in August. So there's more and more people running tournaments, which is awesome. I don't know where other people come from magic background wise. Like I came from playing, modern and whatever, going to GPs, PTQs, all that stuff. I imagine we have lots of people who come just from playing Commander and just playing kitchen table. And so there's a difference when you're looking at tournament play. There's that structure. There's that no tasties, backsies type mentality where there's stuff on the line. You're paying to play. You're playing for money. And so getting people ready for that kind of environment in a multiplayer setting too. The multiplayer setting is
in
very
something
different.
That's more strict, but also a little bit more forgiving. Like, hey, bro, we don't do that around here, kind of thing. Or hey, chick, being
like leagues can serve as that middle ground where it's like, okay, hey, we all are playing this because we want to have an idea of like, hey, we either want to play or are thinking about playing in a tournament, ideally. And so some people will have done tournaments and it won't be new to them. It'll just be like kind of practicing, and some people will be like getting a feel for what that means, okay, I've never had to worry about how fast my deck wins. Is 90 minutes, like, do I need to make changes because 90 minutes is not nearly as long as I think it is.
Especially when you're playing mid-range or control.
Yeah. And being aware of and announcing my triggers and how my deck works and making sure so I'm not missing things both for myself, for my opponents, just, helping kind of maybe clean up is a way to phrase it, but like just staying on top of how you play and verbalizing that stuff correctly and appropriately. I think it just helps kind of bridge that gap and gets everyone on the same page. I know in my league game, the second league game I played, people were pretty cool with some taking back of stuff when, there's stuff on the line, but it was free to enter. So everyone's kind of learning.
Under the right conditions, if no further actions have been made or something like that, or the board game, the board state hasn't progressed beyond a certain state, or something like that. Yeah, I can see being a little bit more newer player, that sort of stuff. And by and large, most people are in the community are pretty understanding. I think in tournament play. I think the most hardlined I personally had to be was, I already drew a card, and then we just accepted it and, kept going. So like, but by and large, people are pretty accepting, forgiving, that sort of thing. And if it's too late, they'll just tell you nicely that it's too late and you just keep going. Right on. So so I have a very specific thing that I want to ask about, but I'm going to talk about, so as hinted, Comic Connoisseurs, then the Tryhards server was conducting a league. I think it was last summer. Yeah. Last summer, we had like a summertime league and it went like 2 or 3 iterations, and Jonathan was like steamheading that, just kind of pushing it out and organizing it and that sort of thing. And we had a lot of participation, even had someone go like close to undefeated. I think that was, what's his name? Anyway, Nate Diggity. What I found fascinating, I'm not suggesting now this is a high bar, but I'm not trying to set it. What I found fascinating was the amount of innovation that came out of those iterations of those leagues, because it was understood that, hey, we're going to use this as a test bed for finding out what's competitively viable. Bring your shit, bring it with you. Let's test it out. If it, like, I brought some rank nastiness, that I only played like maybe twice. And I was like, nope. But I found in that environment, you could get away with not playing your upper echelon tier, whatever stuff. You could get away with playing something that you're, testing and working the kinks out of, and that sort of, and a lot of innovation came out of those experiments. So to pivot back to you, I don't know for sure, which is one reason why I'm asking. Plus, the loving public out there would love to know. So do they have to register a specific list, or do they have the opportunity to change? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's something that's also going to be experimented with. This one, I was just like, I just want people to play.
Mm-hmm.
They can switch between decks. It's spread across a few weeks. So if you're into this deck this week, and then you're like, man, I do never want to play this deck again. I don't want you to be miserable and trapped on that for weeks to come. So this one, you didn't have to register a deck. You just have to, just play, show up, play. You can play a different deck every round if you want. The big thing is, just making sure you have your deck selected before you're sitting down at the table and other people have revealed. So, like, my opponents and I just revealed our commanders all at the same time was how we remedied that. Kind of like a normal commander game for the most part. But yeah, I mean, eventually I want to tinker with, okay, you lock in X number of deck lists. You have to play one of these. Maybe you can switch cards, in them. So, like, if you're like, hey, I need to tweak a few cards because I didn't like them, that's fine. But then we can maybe look at getting, consistent play of some commanders that maybe are underplayed, or it just, I don't want to have a situation where when you're talking leagues, we talked about these can often be big time commitments, talking weeks usually for these. And if you say, hey, I'm going to go in with a deck I'm trying out, and you realize early on, this deck isn't for me, I don't want that feel bad of, oh, I'm stuck playing this for,
because then people just stop playing.
Yeah. But it's a tough thing to balance too, because then, there's no way to track that people are playing. People are good at policing themselves at the table when they'll see, okay, we'll make sure your deck is legal. If they see anything weird, that'll be raised.
Oh, let's put a pin in that. Keep going.
But overall, really the idea is just I want people playing, games that are competitive minded with either the established decks or decks they're working on, whatever. And then, tracking the games via, the guide submission form. So we get that data reflected.
Thanks for the plug, baby. Boom. Yeah. Which I did change it just for you. So, yeah. So
I appreciate that. I saw that.
No problem. So the point that I wanted to spin back around to was people policing themselves. So another big difference between league and tournament play is the opportunity to play digitally. So if you are trying to finalize a list or something like that, the leagues do offer the opportunity to play via the Moxfield playtest function. Just know that people will be watching you, a little bit more closely if you're playing digitally, especially if they don't know you. I mean, if you don't have a relationship, people get weird about that kind of stuff. So just, know that if you go play digitally and you're like, oh, the tournament, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I have to have these cards for real. Okay. There is a big difference because obviously, in a tournament setting, whether it be online or not, the opportunity to cheat, let's say the word, the dirty word, the opportunity to cheat is there via the digital function. So it is more of a preference, a standard that we play with paper. So just, that's kind of one big difference. It's nice to have that functionality when you're testing and all of that, but when you go do the real deal, you gotta buy now. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, it's unavoidable, playing digitally. It's just, there's only so much you can control. There's only so much you can see from people. But yeah, that once you add that digital component, there's way too many ways to, hide parts of your screen, do stuff like, it's hard enough tracking a person in their cards.
I mean, I probably have, I don't know if this is true, but I suspect that my help guide for helping with set up your OBS, in Moxfield, that, learn how to play with digital magic with your friends, whatever I called the video. I'm quite sure it's probably the leading self-help video, in the community. Like, you're one hop, skip, and a jump away from like, okay, I'm going to duplicate my screen. Okay, I'm going to have something else hiding over here. This is, I digress, but it's really easy to manipulate things if you did so desire to. So just to kind of avoid the temptation, paper, tournaments, done. That's the way it is. Right on. Okay. So this is where I reveal to you, and I didn't write it down, because the teaser that I wrote for myself that was apparent to you because we have notes that we're sharing is within cPDH at present, where can a player go to find a league to play in? Now, I'm not recording leagues as of yet, but I am recording tournaments. So starting tomorrow, as of this recording, this will be the release day of this video. So as of the release date of this video, I'll be working with a dev behind the scenes to migrate the website cPDH guide from GitHub over to one of the other hosting sites. I can't remember what it is offhand. In that functionality, there's going to be a whole new set of functionalities. One of those things will be a drop down that says find a tournament. Bobby is one of 3 locations already marked. I got him marked at the center of the United States because he's digital, and it'll have his website information, his contact information. Like if you want to get set up, or new players that are finding the site before they find the discords that are trying to get into a tournament. We've added that functionality for the website. Bobby's the very first person that I've told about it. So
that's awesome.
So it's got RIW, it's got Riches for Rags, Rags to Riches, and Sanctuary PDH. So yeah, so pretty soon as we get through the leagues and into the tournaments and stuff like that, we might be able to add more functionality like a calendar and all that, just all this stuff that I'm exploring down the road. So yeah, hey, that's a function that's not available yet, but has just been publicly announced. So
no, that's awesome. And like you said, we've noticed there's just more tournaments, and I know more people are talking about them. There have been people popping up in various servers and asking like, hey, how do I run this tournament? Or
first off, not sponsored, but go to Imminence. Not sponsored, but go to Imminent. They are, so their crew, I'm not suggesting that other organizations aren't as good, or that's not what I'm saying by comparison. However, mine and Bobby's experience, and I'm speaking for Bobby here a little bit, forgive me, with Max and Zane, they're phenomenal. So like anything that you ask about, they're always willing to help. They're never too big to like, hey, I'll get to you. No, like if you have questions, they'll help. Any of their staff are very helpful. Their software is beautiful. So like, like not sponsored, maybe one day.
Yeah.
So yeah, Imminence and Command Tower. So there's that.
Okay. Imminence is awesome. Max was the judge for the Rags to Riches in Philly in March that I went to. Awesome meeting him, and then also was the judge for the Sanctuary tournament we were in April or May or whenever that was. I don't remember anymore.
May 13th.
Yeah. So yeah, you were looking at the data. But yeah, no, they're awesome. Zane, as I've been tinkering with Command Tower, and I'm using it for the league, and we may talk more about that later in terms of like behind the scenes stuff. But they're actively updating Command Tower and their website that has all their data tracking to accommodate requests. They have added Pauper Commander as a separate format after I bugged them a little bit because I wanted to advertise on their page.
I was bugging too.
Yeah. I was like, I want to advertise on this page, but I don't want it to be listed as Commander and give people the wrong idea. And so, yeah, no, they're super receptive to feedback, super helpful. Monarch, I want to give a shout out to them too, also not sponsored. They are another event organizer. They've really done really well at setting up multiplayer rules, which is something that, in terms of competitive, wasn't really something that came into play before this kind of cEDH scene started bustling. And now, hopefully a cPDH kind of follows suit. So they have their multiplayer rules, guides, supplements,
which pretty much everybody uses, right? Like,
yeah, that's like they're the standard for multiplayer rules supplement that I'm aware of. So shout out to them too, because that's awesome. I know they have a bunch of big events too. So 2
pioneers in the cEDH forefront, bringing it home here to cPDH. Like we've got the best of the best available to us. So you kind of touched on kind of some of the background stuff. So in my notes, I I kind of joke about how difficult it is. So we ran a league previously. After doing it for 1 year, like, I mean, I really loved the output, but like the organization of it and all of that, you almost need a dedicated like staff for that. And trying to, not to sound like, woe is me, but like doing rules committee stuff, being a mod on several servers, running. Then it was only one YouTube. I started .guide after the turn of the year, but like, getting in and influencing the culture of the tryhards and doing all of that stuff, like, and working a full-time, like, man, like, it was a lot.
Yeah, being an adult is tough. Who would have thought?
So, like when Bobby's like, "Hey, I want to do this thing," I was like, "More power to you," because I recognize that there needs to be someone in the space dedicated to focusing on this thing. And as we're going to talk about, like to some degree, like it's not. I mean, I suppose it can be as easy as like, hey, everybody, let's get together at 3 p.m. on the Saturday. And okay, here's a couple of pods. Okay, I'm going to pick, okay, you, and you. Okay, everybody go play. I mean, I suppose it can be that easy. However, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
Bobby, take it away.
Yeah, I think one of the very first things I said to you after putting together the first one was like, wow, this is way more work than I thought it was going to be. And I knew it was going to be a lot of work going in. I wasn't that naive, I like to think. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes. A league is essentially a tournament in some form, whether, it's not, you get to spread it out. So there is a little bit of, I don't know, not really relaxation, but you get to postpone some of the stress of it.
You actually get to play versus a tournament.
I'm playing in the league, which is nice, although I was not anticipating it. But yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it. One, figuring out, we've talked about timing on all of this. That plays into the different structures. We have people from all around the world playing PDH, which is awesome. Also really hard to accommodate when it comes to tinkering with, set schedules. One thing with both the leagues and the tournaments is going to be trying out different times to see, okay, what works best for everyone. And
I have heard a little birdie tell me that for all of you folks in Europe, wink, wink, Bobby's working on times that are conducive to you playing in the league as well, or tournament.
Yeah, as best I can. Easier said than done. But yeah, we're gonna be. I'm rotating the times. I'm starting all these things over the next few iterations to try to get different involvement, and then I figure once we see how everything works and what works best for people, we may like have a smaller rotating time blocks, or we'll do Q1 tournament at this time, or March league at this time, April league at this time.
Yeah.
Something like that. So,
because I'm going to throw this out there, no pressure. You can't have a world champion unless people from all over the world are playing.
True. Truer things never said. But, yeah, no, like, so the timing thing has been one of the most difficult to plan around things, and something that's just going to be experimented with. But yeah, then in terms of other things, getting prize support is one thing. For this one, it's just cool staples I have that I don't play with enough, and so we're giving away a Beta Pestilence, an Arabian Nights Oubliette, a Snuff Out, and a Lotus Petal. So
talk dirty to me.
Yeah, for all that talk about no black cards showing up at the first Sanctuary tournament, this will maybe change that.
Right.
But yeah, so and then going forward, that'll be something where it's working with sponsors or community who wants to donate, whatever that looks like, we'll figure it out. But there's that component. There's the infrastructure for gameplay component, which we talked about. Eminence and their command tower software, phenomenal for that. It does a great job. It sets seat order. It sets, it pairs. It does the timer. It does everything. So it's perfect. for that. And if it's not perfect, they're fixing it, so it's more and more perfect by the day.
And this is REL level of play.
Yeah, so it's meant for competitive REL, and that's what the tournaments are, definitely competitive REL. You know, there's the we have a judge for those. The leagues, because of the nature of them, I don't have a judge that's there all the time. You know, we have the judges in the server who I'm sure would pop in and answer questions if someone were to ask. But the way we're doing it for the league, you know, it's still played at that REL with that, but
because you train as you fight, right? Yeah,
right. But for rules, we don't have a judge there all the time, so we can go figure out rules, things on the fly amongst the group of us. But yeah, it's all meant to be played at competitive REL. Obviously, you know, the people at the table have discretion on how to undo things or when to undo things, and backsies, backsies, all that stuff. And that's going to happen more in leagues than I think will happen in tournament play. But it's still just like making sure we have the resources available to settle those issues if they come up. You know, knock on wood, we haven't had any like sportsmanship related issues, and hopefully we never do. But those rules are linked in this, you know, the server, on the website, all that. So just making sure we have everything there, so it's not like a scramble if something comes up. It's really big. Having to write a bunch of your own rules is something that goes into it too. You know, you have to lay out, okay, what can people do? How can people play? You know, we talked about virtual versus just webcam and paper cards. You know, setting time in rounds, setting number of rounds based on attendance. All this stuff is stuff that had to go into being figured out. And, you know, again, kudos to Eminence for figuring it out, so I didn't have to figure out as much of it. But there's to
kind of say that in a different way. So like your front end work is tremendous. Like the stuff that you're trying to do to prepare, like just setting a time, reaching out to members in the community, figuring out what their availability is, recognizing that maybe May is, you know, late May. Getting into June is probably not a good time because people are graduating and a lot of people are in college, and you know, then you got summer vacations to contend with, and like scheduling is a monster on its own. And then working with other content creators to, you know, like get the word out there, you know, working with people to spread the word, you know, that I would spread even if Bobby wasn't populating the data, which he is, you know, like off of, I'd still, because that's the thing. This is something that's needed in the community, and I'm just grateful I'm not doing it. So that's all like the front end stuff. And then like in the week leading up, you know, making sure that you have requisite number of players. If you don't have, like, if it is more serious or in a tournament, making sure that you have even pods, even for leagues. Like Bobby said that he wasn't planning on playing. I can assume that he is, because maybe he needed to round out a pod or something like that. So it's like figuring all of that out in the week, you know, like this is like, he's got a job and he's got another job.
I got a real job and this job. So.
And then on the event day, I suppose now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I presume that I've got the flow down. On game day, making sure everybody's reporting their wins. You know, that way you get all the records straight for just the day. That's just internal. So that way, getting up into pairings, either for the second game, it sounds like, for the day, or for the following week, you know, like getting all that shit straight. And then some jerkbag has this form thing that you have to fill out for every game, you know, if you're going to report the data to the website anyway, which I'm slowly working. It's just that the functionality doesn't exist for the thing that I want to do, not that I can find, you know, so I'm still working on that. Maybe there'll be something integral to the website, but I don't know how that will work out on mobile. I'm working on it. I promise all of you. So, yeah. So, and then I suppose once all the data is submitted, then, you know, it's planning, you know, the next week, and then, you know, to keep going. Did I miss anything?
Coverage. Don't forget the live stream part of it too.
Yes.
That's always fun.
So how are you, how are you handling the coverage piece? Do you have a world-renowned commentator come in and?
So for leagues, no, not at the moment. I was going to, if I Puzzle Box and I were talking about commentating in various capacities for the league, and then we both played. So it ended up just being streaming one game, and this lets you hear the players talk and kind of what's happening, which is something we didn't have at the first Sanctuary tournament, which we're still trying to figure out for the next one. So leagues, eventually that's the ideal goal, but getting the stream set up, making sure it's live while also trying to play my own game was a fun adventure. But then for the tournaments, yeah, like last time I know I had the one and only Alcadron and myself for most of the day, and then Puzzle showed up at later after he was knocked out of contention. Next time, after they did such a great job at the RIW event, I will be having Derek and Brad commentating the next tournament, and maybe a Wild Puzzle Box will make an appearance, or myself, or whoever. You know, we may have some other people tag in here and there, but
I'm hopeful I will not be available.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to commentate from the final pod.
Exactly. But yeah, no, like having commentary is huge. Hearing, you know, when we want people who are either new to the format or who are into it, just knowing what's going on. You know, there's a lot of cards if you're coming from cPDH or if you're coming from whatever other non-popper formats. There's gonna be cards you've never seen before, probably, and you know, having people like Alcadron, Derek, Puzzle, Brad,
extremely knowledgeable people.
Right, who have built tons and tons of decks, who know what all these cards do, who know how the interactions work, or can probably figure it out on the fly if needed. It's super helpful, and they're super fun to just talk to in general. So they're also super fun to listen to, just talk amongst themselves.
Some of them already make content with their smooth, buttery tones too. So like.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you would be tagged in if you weren't trying to win the whole thing too. So, you know.
Well, the word on the street is we're starting to get to an environment that you can't be really considered an expert in the field if you don't practice what you preach. So, I might not take the whole thing down, but I'm gonna scratch somebody's eyes out on the way down, you know.
Yeah.
So right on.
Definitely a lot going into it, both leading up to, day of, after, all of that. So
well, I think that's leagues in a nutshell. We talked about their benefit to the format, exploration, benefit to new players as a jumping off point, getting into the tournament scene and that sort of thing, kind of amping up beyond just a casually competitive game, getting some reps in. Time becomes a factor. Let's see, digital means, you know, as a means of exploring options, you know, so that way you can settle on a list before, you know, doing the real thing at a tournament. Talked a little bit about the minor struggles. I mean, you know, if Bobby, you know, comes to you complaining about how difficult things are, I mean, just tell him boohoo, you know. I heard the breakdown. It's not that difficult. No, it's it's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort, for real. I am personally, I am so glad Bobby decided to step up and do this thing. It is quite the endeavor to get this thing to go. Like, if you hear no issues, just imagine the amount of work it took to make sure that there were zero issues. So, yeah, needless to say, doing the Lord's work, my friend, doing the Lord's work. So,
and hoping other people follow suit. I would love to have other people doing tournaments, leagues, all that stuff.
So, well, on the tournament side, just revealed it today. We're going to have Find a Tournament. It's a map available on the website. Of course, you'll be able to find Bobby's, Bobby's going to drop me all the links that he wants me to share in the description of this video in chat. But if all else fails and you're like, oh my God, where is this information? I can't find the video. The website will have Bobby's personal cell phone number. You can call. No, I'm kidding. Day or night, he'll answer with a smile. I promise you. No, so no. What's on the website now is your PDH Sanctuary PDH website.com website, which I'm sure has a contact me kind of functionality there. So. No, this is great. I don't think anyone will show up to a league in the near future, whether it's yours or someone else's, and have a lack of an understanding of what to expect. I think we nailed everything on the head. For some folks, this might have been repetitive. I'm hoping that they'll find comfort in the details. Because, that's where experienced players lay, is in the details of things. Do you have anything extra for us?
I don't think so. I'm just looking forward to seeing how these develop. Definitely give feedback. And if, I know Clay's inbox is always open. Mine's always open. If anyone wants to do more in the league space, in the tournament space, reach out. Like, that's what I did. I already gave shout outs to Dallas Walker, Clay, Jonathan, Timmy T. Reach out, because this community is awesome, and it's awesome seeing it grow, and hopefully the leagues and tournaments will continue to grow too. So
sweet. All right, my man. Once again, send him a text, to his personal cell phone, 3 a.m. Eastern time. He'll answer with a smile, maybe even send a selfie. No, he's a great guy. I'm grateful for him. All right. Until the next time, say goodbye.
Bye.